We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 385. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Joining me this week is the second of the two undisputed scholars. You know him, you love him. He is Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Not in a concussed state, so much better than last week. But if you look at this week in wrestling, okay, you would think that I'm still there.
Oh yeah, this one has been an absolute doozy, and it's still ongoing. You've heard about it. You read the title of this video slash episode slash whatever podcast or YouTube episode you're watching right now. So without any further ado, let's just dive right into the biggest story of the week in the world of wrestling in a little segment we like to call
Backstage
News.
Wrestling world is ending, man.
Oh, it's almost like it will rise from the ashes to school the masses. At least that's why I hope it will. But anyway, for the uninitiated, this week is probably going to go into the history books in the professional wrestling world. Because as of just a couple weeks ago, yes.
This week is the definition of you think it can't get worse. And then it does.
But wait, there is more.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, let's get right into it. No further ado. Vince McMahon this week has been publicly accused from, I believe it was someone leaking something to the board of directors, that there were allegations that he had an affair with a paralegal employee who was working with them, gave her a raise, and then when she was terminated, gave her, what was it, $2 or $3 million?
$3 million to keep quiet. Yes,
to keep quiet about the whole ordeal. And supposedly, according to the document that was leaked, there were some reports that she was, quote, passed around like a toy to other employees, most notably by name John Laurinaitis, Mr. People Power himself.
People Power. Yes. Oh man. Is it this is one of those, like, you see it coming. You don't see it coming, but when something like this does come out, you could just be like, you know, as much as I hate to say it with a straight face, I could see it. This is
apparently so could have a lot of other people, like, for whatever reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a dude that for years has gotten away with everything. Every single thing that he's been accused of, he's gotten away with it. So it's one of those, it was only a matter of time. Really? At this point.
But then again, I feel like I know I'm not the only one who has probably thought of this. We've known that there has been some nasty stories about Vince McMahon, and most of the time we've known him as a public figure. Question is, was he ever going to actually be brought down, or was he going to take all of his crimes to the grave? Now, for whatever reason, again, there's still a lot that we don't know just yet, but so far this has resulted in Vince McMahon stepping aside as CEO of the company and has appointed Stephanie McMahon as the interim CEO for the time being. The wording of the statements seem to indicate that he'll eventually be back, but everyone is still treating this as still a seriously big deal. That the prevailing opinion I've heard being that there was no way that Vince McMahon was ever going to come even close to anything like this, let alone just stepping away, albeit temporarily, if that is the case.
Well, the deal is this is basically standard practice for a business organization. If a member is going through a scandal and he's a high ranking figure, okay, they will step aside while the investigation is going so that the company can still keep moving forward while shit is going down. That's basically standard practice. So I let's face it, okay, he's gonna be back. That's just, we can hope and pray that this is the end. But it's not. He'll be back because this is standard practice. They're gonna go through the investigation, they're gonna go through the procedures or whatnot. They're going to they're going to sanction him or whatever. They're going to give him, because it's not, I don't think anything that's going on here is criminal.
Except that there is a possibility that it may possibly. Another report that was released is that he is also being investigated legally for, as much as I could determine, in layman's terms, embezzlement of funds. That's basically misusing corporate funds and not doing right by the investors and the board financially.
I'm guessing the $3 million in hush money.
Yes, that was what I took away from this. Again, it's still very early on. This story is only a couple days old. News stories are going super fast at this point. But that was the impression I got, that they're basically checking out to see if the source of this hush money is his own personal money, his own personal funds, or was he embezzling it from the company at large?
Yeah. And then it's also, okay, just we're recording this on a Friday. They just did SmackDown. Okay. If you're going through all this stuff, okay, why are you putting yourself on SmackDown in the public eye and making a making a statement that makes no sense whatsoever at the beginning of SmackDown, saying that now then forever and together we'll get through everything that's going on? No.
He didn't
Why?
even say that much. He just said, then, now, forever, together. Welcome to SmackDown, and it walks away.
Yeah, I'm like,
Makes perfect sense to me, but
what did that do?
I'll tell you what it did. But for now, before I get into that, did you happen to watch SmackDown tonight? And if so, what was your immediate reaction to Vince's statement?
My immediate reaction was, for me, that was pointless. That did nothing. As much, it's like, yeah, half the crowd I saw people in the crowd dancing and cheering and all that, but half of that crowd noise was piped in. Okay,
Yeah,
and it's just like that. That was like 5 minutes of nothing. You could have done that. You could have done that in a YouTube video. You didn't need to.
except it also wasn't, that wouldn't have been directly in front of live cameras then.
Yeah,
You wouldn't get the good footage.
And that's fine, but you didn't do anything.
Oh, he did something all right. He
told everybody to fuck off, is what he told people.
this
Basically.
was to keep up appearances. This, even though he did not physically say too much, the message he was putting out there was loud and clear. It was friendly. It was as good PR as you could have possibly done at this point in terms of a public, if you had to have Vince McMahon make a public appearance. It was defiant in its own way. It was distractionary on a certain level, at least for the live fans in attendance there. And ultimately, on a not so positive point, I feel like it was also misguided, very tone deaf. It's another one person put it this way, I just saw online, that seemed like they'd already committed to him saying something, but then they just left it very brief once they realized, hey, we've already committed to this, but this is not a good idea at all. Keep it short and sweet and to the point, and then just get the heck out of there. What do you think happened?
Legitimately, this is the one time that I believe that Fox should have stepped in and been like, no, we're not paying you to get on TV right now. That's that's that that this is the one time where I would have been okay with Fox just like going, just being like, nope, no, we're not doing that.
I would have
It's
been
the,
okay with it too.
but it's like, yeah, it's a PR move, but it's not a good PR move. As
No, it
much as
most certainly is not.
so it's one of those like it's steps as he's getting older. Okay, his missteps just keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'm not sure where the time or the power line is, so to speak. If Fox can just directly go to Vince and just say, "Hey, don't do this thing."
I'm paying you $3 billion. I can tell you whatever the fuck I want.
Okay, I'll put it another way.
Yeah.
Would you even bother needing to do that, or do you trust Vince McMahon to at least do what he needs to do and do what's right, basically? That he
If
won't say something embarrassing to or detrimental to the company and the show at large. Just a thought.
I don't I I never believe he would be that dumb to actually say something on TV that would be like that would be detrimental to his baby at large. But it's also like, look, you're in a very bad spot right now. There are times where you should just shut up and stay out of the public eye. This is one of those times because let's face it, okay, it's with with all the moves that are going on behind the scenes right now, everything that's going on, Vince McMahon stepping aside, John Laurinaitis probably getting canned at some point. He wasn't at SmackDown tonight when he's normally at every show, so he's probably getting canned. I'm like, there's legs in this. This definitely happened. So it's like maybe you shouldn't be in the public eye right now. This was not the best time to take 5 minutes out of the start of your show for a nonsense statement like that.
Yeah, there is absolutely some serious power plays happening within the confines of WWE right now. There's lots of talk and speculation that John Laurinaitis is going to get canned, like you mentioned. There's also a lot of talk that Stephanie McMahon was never a big fan of Kevin Dunn and that she might be going after him during her time at the top if this ends up staying for any length of time, really. So there's so much thought and speculation right now. It's running rampant. The question we've got right now is, for both of us, what do you think is likely to happen? And moreover, what do you think should happen at this juncture? Pitch it over to you
Okay.
first.
Well, John Laurinaitis, no matter, he's gone. It's done. It's he's going to be the scapegoat for the whole thing. He's going to be the one to get fired. He's going to take the punishment. What should happen is Vince McMahon stepping aside should be permanent, and Stephanie should take over. Because if you listen to the talent, I was reading a report from Fightful earlier today. I subscribed to their select service, and he did an article about people, backstage workers and talent and all that, and they were very happy that Stephanie was taking over. Like, morale was boosted, everything was great, and then morale went to shit again when Vince McMahon said that he was going to be on SmackDown. So it's just one of the smart thing for the company to do would be to, like, keep Stephanie McMahon in the spot that she's going to be at, and reduce Vince McMahon's duties. Okay, but we know what's actually going to happen. We know what's actually going to happen. John Laurinaitis is going to get fired, and within a few months, Vince McMahon's going to be back doing everything. That's it.
Yes, but what do you think at this point? What would you, in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen?
In a
What's the
perfect
ideal
world,
scenario?
in a perfect world, both John Laurinaitis and Vince McMahon go, and Stephanie McMahon becomes the CEO permanently, and whatever comes from there goes.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, as in a perfect world, I just like to see them truly, utterly, and truly wipe the slate clean from any McMahon interference at all. No more, Vince McMahon is out. He is permanently retired. Shane doesn't go anywhere near WWE at all anymore. Stephanie McMahon, again, all the McMahon members keep their shares of stock in the company. They'll be
But
well taken care of. Stephanie gets taken care of. She gets fired. She gets the severance package. All McMahons are out, and Tony Khan takes the front reins at WWE.
you mean Nick Khan?
Nick Khan, Tony Khan, give it to a Khan.
My thing is, I want to see. I want to give my thing is, I want to give it a trial run. I want to give Stephanie McMahon Triple H run at the top, a trial run, because it seems like the wrestlers are happy underneath Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, and that's my big thing. It's like, I don't care about McMahon's stench or anything like that. They're not happy under Vince McMahon. They're happy under Stephanie. That means they're going to perform better. That means we're going to get better TV. That means we're going to get better pay-per-views. So, or live events. So I would be fine with Stephanie and Stephanie and Triple H at the top.
See, I'm not so sure I am at this point, given how deep it all goes and any sort of external influence that Vince McMahon could have with someone like Stephanie McMahon
Oh,
in our circle. Like I
if
don't know about that one.
if you know Stephanie, if you know the McMahons, you know there's strife between Stephanie and Vince right now. It is, like, my whole thing is, I believe when Stephanie takes over, she's not going to listen to shit that Vince says.
I certainly hope so if that's the case.
Because because as I said, it's like even though Stephanie's name was attached to that movement where Vince was like, "We're gonna do what the fans say," or or whatever, and then they didn't do what the fans said at all. That was Vince on top of creative. That had nothing to do with Stephanie or Triple H.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I'm willing to give them a shot
yeah,
because this particular situation doesn't go deep. Stephanie and Triple H are not involved in whatever's going on with this. With in fact, the only involvement Stephanie might have is she might have known this was coming, so that's why she stepped aside.
and I think that's what's making me reconsider. Like, okay, well, who really knows what and to what extent? Like, again, there's still so much we don't know, so I don't want to speculate too heavily here. But I must wonder. And as far as just reboot, what I want to see truly in an ideal world is WWE do a complete reboot, creatively, storyline wise, as much as humanly possible. Just give the entire company an enema, pretty much. But I know that's not going to happen. So
Realistically,
realistically, what do I think is going to happen? I think that Vince McMahon will have far more social pressure, both from public opinion and from people on the board who will basically force him to experience way more pressure than he has in decades. And maybe this will be the thing that makes him finally shut down, step aside, or he'll be forced to, depending on the severity of the findings, whatever they may be.
yeah, it's either that or they will force him to no longer. This is no longer Vince McMahon's way. If you're going to stay at the top of this company, okay, you're getting. We're bringing people in. We're not letting you have your guys. Okay, we're not letting you have John Laurinaitis. We're not letting you have Kevin Dunn. Dude, we're bringing in our people, and you're gonna be there's gonna be checks and balances from now on. It's not Vince McMahon or the highway.
And I really hope that that's the case, because right now, not only is the show subpar, in my opinion, but as of recent history, they're also leaking talent. It was strongly speculated earlier this week that Sasha Banks has been working towards his release or her release, and actually has gotten it, according to several sources. She's been quietly released, and no one's really no press releases, no nothing. But that's what the word is right now, and I've never encountered something like this in all my years of watching wrestling. Of just
Because it's one of those things where it's like that the brass of the WWE doesn't want to admit that someone actually won.
that
Okay,
makes too much sense.
they were like because it's like even CM Punk, like he didn't request his release. He walked out and then they fired him on his wedding day. That's when they sent him his release papers. Like he didn't ask for it. He just walked out and said, "I'm not coming to work anymore." That's not a win. As much as we like to say it's a win, it's not a win. They fired him.
And if
But
that wasn't bad enough, recent
but this,
history, Sasha Banks has left. Obviously,
well, the whole
Naomi
thing,
has left. Jeff
but the
Hardy
whole
has left.
but
Just gone. Poof.
the whole thing with Sasha Banks is she won. Like she walked out and she got lawyers to get WWE to give her release instead of having her be suspended without pay for however long they were going to do it. Like, she legitimately is the first one to win.
As opposed to everyone else who is just sort of like, regardless of wins and losses and how good everyone looks coming out of this, I have never seen, I've said it before, I've never seen one company look like such a sinking ship so publicly with so many walkouts, one right after another.
Yeah,
It's just,
and it's like,
something is very
and,
wrong here.
and the only reason they're keeping Naomi is because she's part of the she's hooked into the bloodline, and that's their biggest act. So they got to keep them happy, and if they release her, then the Usos aren't going to be happy.
Oh
So
boy.
it's one of those like it's one of those like the worst two possible people that could have walked out on her company did, because Naomi has you by the balls right now. She really does. And it's like Sasha Banks did this 2 years ago, basically. Except she asked for time off, gave it, and the WWE gave it to her, and then she changed her mind. This time there was no change in her mind.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for Sasha that first time where it seemed like she got what she wanted. But then again, if this keeps on going on, clearly it's just not enough anymore. There's something very seriously critically wrong here.
Well,
As
the whole thing with Sasha Banks and Naomi were like, you wanted us to be tag team champions. We're locked in. Our mindset is we want to make these tag team titles actually mean something. And instead, you're gonna break us up for months at a time to go for title matches that we know going in we're gonna lose. So why are we doing this instead of building up the tag team titles? It's like they're not even trying to get booked higher up the card. They don't want to be booked higher up the card. They want to make what they have mean something. And that's why I'm like, I'm on their side on this one more than CM Punk and Stone Cold when they walked out.
mm,
Because
yeah,
I'm like, they're not even trying to get higher up the card. They're just like, we have something. You gave us something. You gave trust. You put trust in us to make these titles mean something, and now you want to break that up for meaningless title defenses that we're gonna lose, and no one's gonna give a shit about our tag team title run. So it's like, no, we're not doing that. You wanted us to be tag team champions. We're here now. Work around that. and
yeah,
and so it's like they're not even trying to be higher up the card. So I'm more on their side on this one than anything else. And if it's enough that Sasha's like, no, I'm done, then hey, there are plenty of other places now that you can go where you will be valued more than you obviously are at WWE. It's like, I hate that every week that I have to come on here and talk down to WWE, because I grew up on WWE, but that company, the way that it's run right now, holy shit.
I will gladly tell it to anybody who will listen. This is very clearly not the same company that I grew up watching. Both you and I started watching. And I think that the past 48 hours has been very telling enough, even for the stories and the things that have been buried or we were just too young to remember right away. So I must ask before we get going, the past 48 hours alone have obviously been very momentous, very packed to the gills with new information, new speculation, rumors aplenty. My question is, over the next week, will we see another new development? And if so, what could it be?
Well, I mean, new development. Once again, okay, those two things. Okay, as I said, this is a week where you're like, I don't know how it could possibly get worse. We started this week with a Jeff Hardy DUI. And we
And
thought
man,
that
did
was,
that get pushed under the rug.
and we thought and we thought that was going to be the big story of the week. But it's just one of those. I'm not going to say it because then it's going to happen, but you know that but you know what I'm talking about. The only way that things can go higher at this point is if something tragic happens. So
I,
it's like so knock on my wooden cabinet over here. Nobody wants that. But I'm like, start off the week with a Jeff Hardy DUI. 0.293. Holy crap. that's, that's all I'm saying. Like, how are you even coherent at all at that point? And props, another thing that I hate to harp on WWE on, but it's also if this happened while Jeff Hardy was in WWE, he would have been on SmackDown the next week. Whereas where he's at right now, Tony Khan's like, you're not getting back on TV until you're going to rehab. You're getting your shit taken care of. I'm not giving you a choice. You're not getting on TV. You're not getting paid until you do. WWE would have given him a choice. So it's just that's how the week started out. Okay. And then randomly overnight, I think it was like Monday or Tuesday, we get the Sasha Banks news. And then Wednesday afternoon, the Vince McMahon shit hits. And it's just like it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And hopefully the only things to come out in the next week is a confirmation on whether she got released or not, and more information on the Vince McMahon story, and hopefully we calm down on anything like new happening. That's what I'm hoping for next week. I'd rather just go into next week for Forbidden Door predictions and not have to talk about horrible crap again. That's it.
I'll tell you what, I would love to just jump into Forbidden Door predictions and not have to worry about any of that nonsense. But truth be told, I don't think we're going to get through this next week without at least one firing. Grant, I don't know how
Oh,
long these
John Laurinaitis.
follow-up investigations are going to take.
We're gonna hear John Laurinaitis by the end of the weekend.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
guarantee it.
how many of these investigations. The lawsuit might take more time just because of legal matters. But in terms of other third-party internal investigations, I was under the impression that there was already some things done. So even if it's just through social pressure, the story going around media outlets and all of that, I suspect there's going to be at least one departure and or firing by the end of next week. By the time we get to Forbidden Door, WWE will have released or fired at least one person. That's going to be my prediction.
Yeah, I honestly believe that they quietly already have. Because as I said, It was going around backstage that John Laurinaitis was not backstage at SmackDown tonight, when he's normally backstage at every show. So
And if that's the
I
case,
believe that at least quietly they've already let him go.
yeah, I find it very interesting that there wouldn't be some sort of given his personal history. I'd be a little surprised if there wasn't some sort of press release by corporate for someone that high profile. If there was someone else who was not mentioned by name, then yeah, I can see them being released, and probably they, like you said, they already have. But as someone like John Laurinaitis, who has had a bit of a reputation problem as of late, I've got to believe that they would at least put the word out that the bad eggs are out of the basket, for lack of other terms here.
Hmm.
But
yeah, if he's not gone already, I bet he'll be gone by the time by the time next week happens. I don't expect him to last the weekend.
well, I'll tell you what, this has been, again, for the umpteenth time, an absolutely loaded week. It's nothing but speculation until the next chapter is written. But now is a time where we're going to pitch it over to you, our fellow fans. What was your reaction to all this news? What do you think is going to happen next? What should happen next in terms of corporate and the rest of the wrestling world at large? We want to hear from you, so drop us a line all across the internet. If you're joining us on not Facebook, you're joining us on YouTube, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and check in the description to check out our link tree for all our latest on most relevant links. If you're checking out our podcast version, if you check out the comments and the oh wow, I am blanking. I am a sleepy baby boy. Just follow the links, check in the description for our link tree for all our latest links and socials and all those things. And if you want to get in contact with us directly, you can always do so on our social media and Twitter accounts. Brian, where can he reach you?
You can reach me banging my hand on a wooden cabinet, hoping nothing else bad happens at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can catch me on Twitter being very glad that sentence didn't go any number of other ways at I'm Robbie Rage. Join in the conversation. It's no matter what, it's almost guaranteed to be another major week in the world of wrestling. But you already knew that because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all next week for the Forbidden Door.